Hi everyone, I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for joining me, and thank you to those that have supported my work. Knowledge is power. I am older than most according to recent voter polls. Those that were baby boomers are decreasing in population. Not good. But because of my age, I've seen a lot of changes going on in the world. I was born only 9 years after World War II ended. The Chinese government, the Chinese military, seem to have no remembrance of who saved their butt. Back then, Japan came in and, did a lot of atrocities to China, and the Allies, U.S. included, went to help them and give them their land back and their freedoms. Either that they've forgotten or they have no honor. Here I thought honor was very important among their culture, but evidently not so with the government there. The Chinese government is in for the long game, where here in the United States we expect things to happen rather quickly. China, it seems like up until, a few decades ago, was still considered a third world country, but because of the technology they've stolen from us and other countries, or the technology that was given to them. Hillary Clinton actually gave them some technology for radar, I believe it was. Many of you might remember what that was. I know they handed over some technology to even up the playing field. I want you to be aware of recent events that are going on between China and the United States that could drastically affect us, our lives, and our way of life. We all know that we got a bad problem, a crisis there on our border. Many of you may have heard about the Chinese migrants that have been coming across our border illegally. In a news report that came out today says that federal authorities are growing increasingly concerned about a route Chinese migrants are utilizing to make their way to Florida illegally, according to an internal federal intelligence report, and this was obtained by the Daily Caller News Foundation. The U.S. Marines that were sent to the border are now being sent back to their bases. But Texas evidently is sending in more National Guard. This recent report states that law enforcement lack information regarding who is coordinating the smuggling between the Bahamas and Florida, where the migrants are being staged in the Bahamas, and why Chinese migrants are choosing the Caribbean island. It also referred to recent incidents of Chinese nationals entering Florida illegally via the Bahamas. They are now letting us know that there's been 5 incidents of Chinese migrants attempting to self-smuggle from the Bahamas, according to the report. One incident took place just on July 16th and involved a group of 6 Chinese migrants. Now, according to Gordon Chang, he says that when there is groups of saboteurs, these are usually military-age men in groups between 5 and 15 that are trying to enter our country. So on July 16th, they caught a group of 6 Chinese migrants there. The Chinese purchased a vessel there in the Bahamas. They evidently did a test to make sure it could make it to Palm Beach. All 6 Chinese migrants were caught and then repatriated to the Bahamas. Border Patrol agents stationed in Florida have seen a spike in arrests of illegal migrants from China, according to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection data. Agents apprehended 27 migrants from China in Florida between October of 2022 and June, up from 5 in the fiscal year of 2022. So they're increasing their migration here to the United States. Federal authorities at the U.S.-Mexico border also recorded a recent uptick in encounters of Chinese migrants crossing illegally. Between October of 2022 and June of this year, Border Patrol agents apprehended more than 14,000 You got that 14,000 illegal migrants from China at the southern border compared to roughly only 1,900 in all of the fiscal year 2022. Like I said, they're ramping up whatever their plans are. China, you cannot leave the country without their permission. These are able-bodied, mostly men, that are coming into the United States. Over 17,000 that they caught. How many haven't they caught? According to Gordon Chang, he says that his first thought, the first thing that came to his mind, that these are either Ministry of State Security agents or Chinese military who are coming to this country to commit acts of sabotage against the U.S. How many of you heard about the illegal Chinese lab that was found in Greeley, California? Amongst all the different things that they also had over 1,000 mice that were genetically engineered to pass on and carry deadly viruses. They found thousands of vials, many of which contained biohazard material. A lot of the bottles had their labels removed, so they had no idea what was in the bottles. You know darn well that we were not told the full list of infectious viruses that was found at that lab. Evidently this week, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy joined other local politicians in sounding alarms about the ties between China and that secret lab that was shut down in April of this year. They discovered it in April, but only last week was it even on the news. The lab was run by a company called Prestige Biotech Incorporated, whose owners reside in China. Kevin McCarthy said that he was concerned and wanted to get to the bottom of what happened there, but also where this is happening in other parts of the country. They are very concerned. Is it happening in other parts of the country? I'm sure it is. I certainly hope not. There's been no information come out that there is, but if they got one biolab working on contagions, I'm sure there's more. He also said, supposedly, Governor Gavin Newsom administration provided the lab with state funding. So, yeah, the California governor knew it was there. The governor of California provided them with $360,000. What was that money to be used for? Now, according to a spokesperson from the California governor's office, they said that the money that Prestige Biotech received, $360,000, was a tax credit. It's a grant. It's a compete grant program that's available that they give to businesses that want to relocate to California. But according to the spokesman, the credit was ultimately revoked. They evidently filed under a different name called Universal Meditech, and they said that they did not achieve any of the milestones and was not approved to claim any of the tax credits. The Office for the Governor also said that Prestige Biotech never received any California Competes funding and that it was never a party to the agreement. McCarthy said he plans to follow up with the FBI in light of his discussion Thursday. So this was last week. It has been speculated that if we go to war with China, this would be their long-term plan to spread a virus throughout the United States, incapacitating the U.S. citizens and our military. Which brings me to the virus, the malware, that China recently released to our military base. It first started there in Guam and then spread throughout many other military bases and got into the average citizen infrastructure. It's called Typhoon. Evidently, this was inserted into, our systems, our computers, back in 2021, and they only recently discovered it. when Microsoft did a investigation because of the balloons they were sending over the United States. I think even though we were told they weren't sending out any data, they wanted to make sure. So when they were looking into the balloon incident, that's when they found the malware Volt Typhoon. They know that Volt Typhoon has been active since mid-2021 and has targeted critical infrastructure organizations in Guam and elsewhere in the United States. This campaign, the affected organizations span the communication, manufacturing, utility, transportation, construction, maritime, government, information technology, and education sectors. I did a report about how China has been giving to the schools millions of dollars and to the universities. I was shocked to find out that Berkeley in California, once again California, had been receiving money from China. It wasn't a ransomware virus or malware. It was to gather information about our infrastructure, your water companies, and get all the technical data if they wanted to do sabotage. Yeah, can you imagine, along with some sort of contagion that they released right here in the United States, that they would shut down our power, our water, our communication, your cell phones. It is already in your routers for people's personal homes and businesses. They did not release this virus for money. They released it as another tool for war that they would turn on when they decided to either attack Taiwan or the United States. And we all know that China and Russia are, very close allies to each other. Gordon Chang, who is a senior fellow for Gatestone Institute, is sounding the alarm, and the media is not covering this. And there's more. We've all heard about the Chinese police stations here in the United States and in Canada. I believe they finally shut down the one in New York. There might be another one they shut down. I'm not quite sure. But Gordon Chang also mentioned, and this was brought up in the news report, that the Chinese government is pressuring Chinese American people, kind of creating like a race war, is how he described it, to pledge their allegiance, even though they're Chinese American, they're American citizens, but to pledge their allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party, encouraging the mass murder of Americans. And it's been a very popular theme in Chinese society. We all know that they control their internet really closely over there in China. Like I said, how are these people being allowed to leave China and come to America or the Bahamas or wherever their port of entry is going to be? But they're also encouraging incitement to kill Americans. Mr. Chang said that often these groups that are planning sabotage, they come in to our country in groups of 5 to 15, pretending they don't know English. And this lab that was found in California, they called it a kamikaze lab. Well, what's a kamikaze lab? That's where you sacrifice yourself to bring the death upon your enemy. The term, I believe, came from World War II when the Japanese ran out of fuel and they only had enough fuel for their planes to make one trip to smash their planes into the U.S. Military boats. So it makes me wonder what else was in that lab. Was it Ebola? Was it smallpox? Was there a form of hemorrhagic fever? Just this last week, 2 members of the United States Navy were arrested and charged that they provided secrets, military secrets, to China. These 2 fellows were Chinese American citizens. It is alleged that they provided sensitive military information that ended up in the People's Republic of China. The two sailors did not work together. They worked separately and gathered separate information. One of the Navy personnel evidently started to work for China back in 2022, and the Chinese wanted information about one of our warships, the Essex, I believe, and other ships in the U.S. Navy. Wei evidently sent dozens of technical manuals and blueprints to the Chinese intelligence officer, revealing weapon systems and other critical technology used aboard the ships, plural. He also provided them with photos and videos of military equipment. He also supposedly sent them information about a military maritime warfare exercise. He sent photographs of military equipment to whoever his handler was. The other man, Zhao, I might be pronouncing it wrong, it's spelled Z-H-A-O. He took photos and video recordings about another planned, I guess it hasn't happened yet, for a large-scale military exercise in the Indo-Pacific region, as well as blueprints for our base in Japan. He evidently did it for money. He received over $14,866. Evidently, the Chinese police station, it was called the secret police station, that was closed down in New York City in April, and it was being used to track Chinese citizens that were here in the U.S. or people that were applying to become American citizens. A lot of times these Chinese American people still have family there in China, and they would use the family in China as kind of like a threat to hang over their head. I have to give a shout out to Canadian Prepper. I like his one saying that there's no such thing as an exercise. It's a World War III disguise. Well, evidently, the United States has dispatched 4 Navy destroyers off the coast of Alaska in response to a joint military operation involving Russia and China warships. It says their operation included 11 warships, which were spotted in the Aleutian Islands off the southwestern coast of Alaska on Saturday, August 5th. We're just now being told about this. In response, the Navy sent the 4 destroyers and a P-8 Poseidon aircraft to intercept the warships. They also said that the Russian and Chinese vessels did not enter U.S. territorial waters. Well, if they want to fire off a missile using the disguise of war games, a drill, they don't need to be within, 12 miles of our waters. Just shows you how anything can happen day or night at any time, and people need to be prepared. You need to stay aware of what's going on in the world. Be aware of your surroundings. Keep your head on a swivel. Do you realize how easy it would be for them to sabotage our water system? Add extra chemicals that aren't supposed to be there, to poison people. We get our medication from them, from China. How easy it would be to tamper with medication. People would die before we find out about it. We have traders right there in Washington, D.C. that are taking bribes from China. If you're stocked up on medication and they do tamper with it, and when people start dropping dead or getting seriously ill, at least you would have a chance of not being one. They got the recently purchased medicine that could be tampered with. A lot of people don't even realize that they are financing the Chinese military. Evidently, BlackRock is being investigated because it's been alleged that the CEO, Larry Fink, is using Americans' money unwittingly, it says here, to fund Chinese companies that develop and build weapons for the People's Liberation Army, the PRC. This letter here addressed to Larry Fink from Congress, down here at the bottom it states, let me read this. as the world's largest asset manager with over $9 trillion under management in the first quarter of this year. BlackRock provided and administers its own investment fund, and millions of Americans have their retirement and pension savings invested in BlackRock funds. Our review has shown that as a direct result of decisions made by BlackRock, these Americans are now unwittingly funding PRC companies that deliver and build weapons for the People's Liberation Army, PLA, and PRC's military, and advance the CCP's stated mission of technological supremacy by facilitating mass flows of American capital to these and other PRCs, entities linked to the PLA, or to human rights abuses. BlackRock is exacerbating an already significant national security threat and undermining American values. So they're invested in companies that we either have blacklisted, red flagged, and it goes on and on. I don't know if you care if if you're part of BlackRock investment. If it was me, but it isn't me, I would pull my money out of there. I'm sorry, this is a little lengthy. I hate lengthy videos, but China is pulling so much crap. They seem to have forgotten, their government, how much help the U.S. did for them. Their government seems to have no honor, and I thought honor was part of their culture. Yeah, they're so worried about the U.S. interfering with Taiwan. I don't know if Biden would actually do that or not. So, what are your thoughts? I hope you're prepared. Yeah, people need to know what's going on. Always be safe. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for the cups of coffee that you bought me. And I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.